The heart of United Kingdom, London, a city often dubbed the City of Dreams. Known for its historic landmarks, cultural richness, and vibrant lifestyle, London stands out as one of the wealthiest urban areas in the world. But how did this city, and indeed the whole of the UK, arrive at its current crossroads? Let's start with some numbers. London's economy is estimated to be worth around £58 billion, which translates to approximately $652 billion. If London were an independent state, it would rank as the 22nd largest economy globally, just ahead of countries like Argentina and Sweden. This impressive statistic might seem like a cause for celebration. However, it also casts a shadow on the broader economic landscape of the UK, as London's wealth is not representative of the entire nation. In fact, this small area, the capital city, accounts for nearly half of the UK's gross domestic product, GDP, while hosting about one-third of the nation's population. This remarkable disparity indicates a level of economic imbalance that has significant implications for the rest of the country. To put it into perspective, if you were to amputate London's economic output from the UK's total, British living standards could plummet by around 14%. That figure is not just a statistic, it suggests a grim reality for millions of citizens outside the capital, pushing the nation backward in terms of prosperity. Over the past decade, the UK has faced a series of challenges that have painted a bleak picture of its economic health. Real disposable income. This refers to the income people have after taxes and benefits has remained stagnant, showing little to no growth. In simpler terms, while the cost of goods and services continues to rise, people find themselves with less purchasing power than a decade ago. This erosion of real income has led to a situation where individuals can buy less with their hard-earned money, straining family budgets across the country. Meanwhile, the nation has been grappling with an alarming trend: low productivity rates. The UK now boasts one of the lowest productivity levels of any major economy, which is troubling when you consider that productivity is a key driver of economic growth. The correlation between low productivity and the current housing crisis cannot be overstated. Housing in the UK has become increasingly unaffordable, and the country now holds the grim record for the highest number of homeless people in the developed world. So, what is at the root of these multifaceted issues? To understand the current situation, we must delve into past political decisions that have shaped the economy over the years. The last 10 years have not been kind to Britain, marked by a series of missteps and setbacks that have left the economy in a precarious state. The irony is palpable. The UK was the first country to industrialise, leading the world into an era of economic progress and innovation. Yet now, it finds itself teetering on the brink of deindustrialisation. Taking a broader perspective, Britain's economy is on a downward trajectory. Prices are rising at an alarming rate. Just recently, housing prices surged by more than £2,200 in a single month, a statistic that went largely unreported by mainstream media outlets. This underreporting highlights a concerning trend in the media landscape. Critical economic issues often fall into the shadows, unacknowledged by those who should be addressing them. In our quest for understanding, we turn to several hidden articles, which provided us with invaluable insights into overlooked stories. Historically, the UK's economic landscape has seen better days. Not too long ago, Britain was considered one of the world's most prosperous nations, a prime destination for skilled professionals seeking career advancement and opportunities. Today, however, the reality paints a different picture. The state is under immense socio-economic strain, more so than many people realise. 3 back-to-back geopolitical shock waves have compounded the situation, leaving the nation grappling with colossal debt. Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Ukraine war have each served as catalysts, triggering a domino effect of economic difficulties. To grasp the full scope of the issue, we must turn the clock back to 2008 when the financial crisis struck. This event introduced a slew of long-lasting effects, echoing throughout the UK economy. Like many other nations, Britain suffered deeply from the financial crisis. However, the way it handled the fallout set it apart from its developed peers. After borrowing approximately £141 billion to bail out British banks, the government opted for austerity measures instead of investing in fiscal and social policies aimed at supporting the populace. In practical terms, this meant no significant tax cuts or minimum wage increases. no attempts at inflation control, and no job creation programs. For ordinary citizens, the consequences of these decisions were devastating. Real household income dropped and remained flatlined for the next 15 years, marking a period that economists have come to refer to as the lost decade. To provide some perspective, in 2007, the average British household was about 8% less prosperous than their counterparts in Norway and just 6% behind those in the United States. Fast forward to today, and British households now find themselves a staggering 20% behind Norway and 16% behind the US in terms of real income. This drop in living standards is particularly palpable among the middle class, which has historically been seen as the backbone of the economy. Real household income is not just a statistic, it is a fundamental driver of economic activity. It encourages consumer spending, which in turn improves living standards and contributes to overall economic growth. However, the government's focus on prioritizing corporate interests above all else has led to a series of miscalculations that have left the average citizen struggling to make ends meet. Even in the corporate sector, the gains were largely short-lived. The lack of significant investments in productivity means that the workforce has been left to operate under outdated conditions. To put it simply, increasing productivity is one of the most effective ways to foster economic growth. Yet, contrary to popular belief, improving productivity doesn't necessarily mean working harder, it means finding ways to produce more output without increasing the amount of work involved. For instance, when an economy transitions from agriculture to manufacturing, think of a farm switching to producing microchips. Productivity increases because the tech industry generally yields higher profits and has better margins. As a result, the workforce gets more out of its efforts without a proportional increase in labor input. This is why countries like Japan are investing in turning farmland into factories. It's about boosting productivity to enhance economic performance. Unfortunately, the opposite has occurred in the UK since the 2008 crisis. Productivity output per capita has declined due to a lack of investment, leading to the current troubling situation. Before the crisis, productivity in Britain was growing at nearly 2% annually. Afterward, however, it weakened significantly, resulting in a concerning shift in a trend that had been positive since the 1980s. The British workforce now boasts the second lowest productivity rate among the G7 economies, a drastic change from its previous standing, where it was second only to the United States. The simultaneous effects of sluggish real household income and low productivity explain much about the current performance of the British economy. It is essentially fighting for its life, struggling to maintain a semblance of stability amid a sea of challenges. The lost decade that Britain experienced happened so quietly and indifferently that none of its political parties acknowledged it, let alone addressed it. There has been no meaningful political discourse on this pressing issue that has been affecting millions of households. Instead, the crisis manifested itself in the form of Brexit, a controversial decision that has had lasting implications. The uncertainty surrounding Brexit has exacerbated an already dire situation, particularly impacting direct foreign investment. According to the Bank of England, Brexit resulted in a 25% reduction in investment from 2016 to 2021. This drop in investment has far-reaching consequences, as it stifles innovation and economic growth. Soon after Brexit, the onset of COVID-19 further complicated the economic landscape, exacerbating the crisis that had been simmering beneath the surface. In response to the pandemic, the British government stepped in, borrowing an additional £280 billion to support the economy. This borrowing was deemed necessary to help the nation weather the storm, but it came with a significant caveat: most of the COVID bailout was borrowed when interest rates were at historic lows, sitting at around 0.1%. While this made repayment seem manageable at the time, the landscape changed dramatically with the onset of the Ukraine war. When Russia launched its full-scale assault, sanctions and trade restrictions effectively halted access to Russian oil and gas. Almost overnight, an energy crisis began to unfold, driving up costs for households across the UK. Projections indicated that British households would pay 3 times the previous price just to heat their homes during the winter months. In response to rising public anxiety, the British government intervened once more, this time implementing one of Europe's most generous financial support packages. Estimates suggest that between £60 billion and £100 billion in additional spending was injected directly into Britain's debt. While this intervention mitigated immediate damage to households, it also pushed the UK into an unprecedented increase in debt as a share of its GDP. This compounded crisis, both from the pandemic and the energy crisis, has pushed inflation rates to new heights. Central banks, in response, have ramped up interest rates to combat inflation, with the Bank of England increasing rates by 5% over the course of 18 months. This marked the sharpest rise in rates since the 1990s. But the crux of the issue lies in how these decisions trickle down to impact ordinary citizens. With rising interest rates, mortgages became significantly more expensive, leading to a wave of foreclosures and financial distress. The combination of stagnant incomes and soaring costs has resulted in the UK experiencing the worst cost of living crisis in decades, leaving many families struggling to make ends meet. The landscape has become even bleaker when considering that almost 1 in 5 families now rely on food banks to survive. This is not just an economic statistic, it is a human tragedy unfolding in real-time. To compound matters further, the ongoing strikes across multiple sectors in the UK signal a growing sense of unrest among the populace. Public workers, such as teachers, nurses, and transport workers, have taken to the streets, demanding better pay and working conditions. Their frustrations are not unfounded. After years of stagnant wages and increasing living costs, the sentiment is that something has to give. The ramifications of this unrest could spell significant challenges for the UK government as they struggle to maintain order amid a wave of dissatisfaction. To address these pressing issues, it will require not just policy changes, but a radical rethinking of how the economy operates. One proposed solution is to invest in a green economy, focusing on renewable energy and sustainable practices to create new jobs while tackling climate change. By redirecting resources towards sustainable industries, the UK could spur economic growth while fostering a healthier environment for future generations. Additionally, promoting local businesses and increasing support for the creative economy can foster resilience within communities. In London alone, the creative sector contributes over £50 billion to the local economy, demonstrating that fostering a creative culture can stimulate growth. However, change cannot happen overnight. It requires collaboration between government, business leaders, and communities to innovate and drive a renewed sense of purpose in the economy. Engaging young people in the workforce through vocational training and apprenticeship programs could provide a necessary boost to productivity while empowering the next generation to shape the economy's future. The road ahead for the UK is fraught with challenges, yet it is also filled with opportunities for growth and renewal. By learning from past mistakes and focusing on long-term solutions, the nation can begin to rebuild its economy, ensuring that it serves not just the elite few in London, but every citizen across the UK. In conclusion, the current economic situation in the UK serves as a reminder of the interconnectedness of our global economies. London may shine as a beacon of wealth and opportunity, but its fortunes are intricately tied to the well-being of the entire nation. It's time for a change, and it begins with recognizing the challenges and working collectively towards a brighter, more equitable future for all.